There's some wild things that this movie Day Shift does, but the biggest question mark is how did we come up with the name Bud for a person like Jamie Foxx? Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be the first to know. So we're in that weird doldrums of the summer moment where there's nothing coming out in theaters for a while. Probably, I think the next big release, like I want to see Don't Worry Darling, but I think the next big release is something like Halloween. We're in the doldrums for a while. So a lot of stuff consistently is just getting tossed out on Netflix. Netflix has a bad habit of putting things out and not telling you about it. All of a sudden, you just see it show up on your screen. I think Day Shift, this movie, had a little bit more of a visibility than like The Gray Man or some of the other things that have come out recently. But again, we got a whole brand new, looks to be an expensive looking film done that Netflix kind of just throws away. The Day Shift is a new film from first time director J.J. Perry, who has done stunt work and stunt coordinating for ages. It's funny, I just listened to Kevin Smith podcast where he was talking about how stunt coordinators, a lot of them do end up down this road of being a director because technically they're directing anyway. They're directing when the scene changes to being an action sequence or a stunt sequence, or they do second footage. So the second team, the stunt coordinators are the ones who are actually directing those sequences. So eventually they do sort of lead into, if something they want to do, they do lead into directing their own feature length film. One of the producers on here is the director of the John Wicks, so it's kind of all hand in hand. And you get a little bit of that too. This movie is what I would like to call if Men in Black and From Dusk Till Dawn, which are two of my favorite movies, merge together, and then you put in a little sprinkling of John Wick. That's what you get. So in this movie, Jamie Foxx plays a character named Bud, sure, who is a father who is basically trying to protect his family and keep his family together. They are separated, but he is this quote unquote pool cleaner who actually is a vampire hunter. And in this film, the teeth, the fangs of a vampire act as currency. So you need them to kind of build up money to get up credits. He's doing this illegally, quote unquote, or on the side when there's an entire union, sort of like the Men in Black, of who actually do hunt these vampires legally. And then there's this whole thing, the hijinks, where there's the head vampire who played by Karla Souza from How to Get Away with Murder, who she is trying to do this thing where she can basically bring all the vampires together and put them during the daytime so they can kind of live and overtake the world. As one vampire and anybody who's the bad guy wants to do. The biggest thing, this movie's fun. It is just a good time. Like, no one is taking themselves super seriously, but they are all having a good time. The action gets goofy and campy, but it's fun. It's one of those, like, you're seeing the hyper martial arts and twisting and turning of John Wick, but with aliens, so you can be a little bit more violent with them. You can cut off heads. You can stick a knife here and flip it this way. It doesn't take itself seriously, and when it gets fun and actiony, it is a great time. A super campy, stylized action comedy that fits into all sort of the weird niches that I kind of enjoy. Now I'll say this: the first act of this movie is a little rough for me, and it's because they are trying to lay out a lot of groundwork. I think the movie starts off with a pretty cool action sequence, and you're like, oh, I get the style of how this action is going to be, even though they don't quite get back to that 100%. There's a lot of different styles of action that kind of occur, but that is one style. But you at least get to see how they're going for it and what the action is going to be. And then it slows down for a good 25 to 30 minutes as it tries to explain the world. And it uses characters to do exposition. It uses Dave Franco's character to kind of like lay out the ground rules of what vampires are. And it does it trying to keep the story alive, but it does very much feel like, oh, we're kind of stuck in the mud because there's so many layers of this world we have to put in. We have to put on why Bud and his family are apart. We have to put in the kid. We have to put in their actual relationship. We have to put in why he is out of the actual union of the vampire hunters. You got to put in Snoop. You got to just do all of these. You got to mix the seasoning before you can kind of get into what the actual taste of the meal is. And it almost loses me. But then there's a sequence where there's a massive action beat that occurs midway during the film that they add two more characters, like another set of killers who are vampire killers, and it just from that point on, when we get to the hive sequence at Hive House, it kind of this movie takes off, and it's a fun ride from that point on. I think a lot of what this movie depends on is the interaction between Jamie Foxx and Dave Franco. Like those Seth and Bud need to have a good chemistry, and they do. I think it gets better once there's a twist that occurs to Dave Franco's character. Once that takes place, I think it improves. But I think it's really good even before then. And that is sort of what, at least even when the dry moments of this movie are happening, it gets us to the point before the action beats start occurring again. Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg. He's himself. He's having a good time. I'm having a good time with him there. I think the villain, Karla Souza, she does quite well. She's believable, and I feel it. And I think all in all, it's a campy, you can turn on your TV and watch it and just have a good time type of film. I think people who do like the From Dusk Till Dawn, like if you like that last act of From Dusk Till Dawn, when it just goes vampire batshit crazy, you're gonna get that here with some Men in Black, like world building, and then a little bit of John Wick fighting style. If that's your cup of tea, I think you're gonna enjoy this. I enjoyed this way more than I thought it was going to be. I just cut this on last night. It's like, I'll watch this. It's another big budget Netflix thing, and you know how much they like to spend money there. But this one actually feels like there's enough care and a heartbeat going on within the making of this that I was like, I enjoyed that ride. So on my scale of play it again, Sam, once is enough, meh, I didn't mind that. Or give me a time stone so I never have to think about this film again. This is a play it again, Sam. Like, I had a genuinely good time. I think it's, like I said, it starts off sluggish, and I don't think this is for everyone. But for those people who like some of that weird, campy stuff where you get into the Evil Dead or From Dusk Till Dawn with a little bit of Men in Black, I think this is going to be for you. What did you guys think about the day shift? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up with email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.